Folks, welcome into sportsbookreview.com. It is Friday. It is basketball season, but we still got time to turn this into a football Friday. Welcome, everyone. We're going to talk some free agents and some long shots for the 2021 NFL season. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. We are the pro football guys at sportsbookreview.com. Almost forgot, Kyle, how to open the show, close it. We're back in full mode. We'll be here weekly throughout the offseason, getting you ready for all the nuggets you need to know to what? Become a better NFL gambler with all the information to keep you caught up. Kyle, feels good to be back in the saddle, my friend.
It really does, and it's good that we talk a little NFL because, we're getting a little long in the tooth, so then your brain starts to deteriorate a little bit. You got to remember everything, so it's good for us even just to get in here and refresh our brains. And as usual, I love working with my man Donnie in here, best in the business, and love being a sportsbook review. I'm excited for the show. It's been fun to kind of go over and look at some of the long shot odds out there. So I'm excited for the show and appreciate everyone joining us, of course, in the chat box.
You know, it's interesting. We talked before the show started, and we're just because you're right. We're getting older here, and you say, did the Ravens win a playoff game this year? And I'm like, hold on. Did they actually win a playoff game? Yes, they won. And how do we remember it from the bad beats if you bet a certain way? Because I actually won a bet in that football game. But if you didn't, there was a certain punt that brought back a lot of good graces here, Kyle.
Oh, Mike Vrabel. He's still on my shit list right now. Mike Vrabel, very, very upset with him still because I, of course, was on the, as we would like to say, the left side, not the right side on that bet. I believe we went head-to-head on that, and Donnie got the better of me. Of course he did in that one, and I will never forgive Mike Vrabel for that punt. It just will never happen. He's the Vic Fangio of the AFC South, so there you go.
By the way, guys, you see it is March 5th right now. We are talking NFL, but we are right in the thick of it here at sportsbookreview.com, talking and watching college basketball. Even as we do the show call, I can't get away with it, watching a little VCU in the A10 right now, but we have some fantastic stuff on deck to carry you through March Madness. Also, how about this? Our March Madness bracket contest, get in at 100,000 BetK points. I'm already in it, but you know what? I can stand around and stumble and tell you some of the details. Let's go to the nice graphics here to explain it much better than I can.
March Madness is just around the corner, and we at the Three Man Weave are here to tell you we have you covered. So make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel SBR Sports Picks, Matthew, for all your video needs.
Jim, if you want more, that's not enough. SBR also has a dedicated March Madness headquarters. You can find picks, videos, news, and an updated bracket over at sbrpicks.com/March-Madness, Kai.
All you have to do now is sit back, relax, and let the games begin.
There we go. Look at that. Hey, we're moving up in the world here at sportsbook.com.
Yeah.
We don't even have to do our own ad reads anymore.
Love it. Love it. It's classy, right? We're just so damn important that they do all that stuff for us. We just sit back here, look pretty, and talk football. And I'm excited for it. I'm actually trying to brush up and get caught up on all the college basketball I missed out on. It's sort of hard earlier in the year because we're so focused on football and everything else. It's hard to really get into that. And I know you're doing a great job all over the place. I've been watching some of that, getting my A10 bets in there. So I love doing that. And it's college basketball time, baby. It's going to be a lot of fun. And great job by the crew over there at SBR getting that all set up.
No, you know what's interesting, too, because college basketball turns right into Major League Baseball, turns right back into football season. It's a 24/7, 365 effort right here at sportsbookreview.com. Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk some NFL football because there's a couple big things coming up here. And the NFL likes to turn it into a 12-month-a-year, news cycle, as we like to say. Free agency coming up within the next week and a half. And then a few weeks after that, what are we getting after? The NFL draft. But let's talk some of the projections of the top NFL free agents and fits that we currently have. Now, we're not going to spend time and bore you guys, but you know what? There's a third-string cornerback on the Eagles that I really think would play well on the Chicago Bears. We're going to hit the big boys here. And the one interesting topic that keeps coming up on this is Dak Prescott. Yes, technically still a free agent, hasn't signed for, the franchise tag or hasn't come to an agreement with the Cowboys on a long-term deal. So technically still a free agent. Now, I like to tie this one in because Russell Wilson is not a free agent. We hear Russell Wilson give his teams the 4 teams he wants to go to if he is traded from Seattle. One pops up as Dallas. And I can't for the life of me, Kyle, actually think that Dallas, who, again, you're going to have to pay Dak Prescott a lot of money, but he doesn't cost you any draft capital. Are we led to believe some of these dumb rumors that say, well, let's swap Dak to go to Seattle and then the Cowboys trade for Russell Wilson? So what are you giving up? 2, 3 first-round picks to get Russ? There's no way that happens. Dak Prescott's going to stay with the Cowboys at least for one more year. It makes too much sense.
Yeah, and look, we should preface this by it is the Cowboys, it is Jerry Jones, and he's known for doing some really stupid, bizarre, weird things when he gets his mind set on it. But all they have to do is look in their own division and look at all the quarterback problems in that division. And the idea that you would let Dak Prescott go, who, love him or hate him, the dude is a super talented quarterback, by far the best quarterback in the division. And those don't just fall, they don't just grow on trees. Look at the NFL. There's only a handful of teams that really feel good about their quarterback situation. Absolutely foolish of the Cowboys to consider doing anything else other than giving Dak Prescott what he wants. They're arguing over an extra year on the contract. He wants one less year. They want one more year. They're going to franchise tag him. Dak Prescott's not going anywhere. And if the Cowboys go crazy and let Dak Prescott go, it would be a huge, huge mistake. I think they have to understand that. He'll get franchise tag. He'll play great this year. That ankle will be fine. And, he'll be by far the best quarterback in the division, and he'll get his contract next year because they won't be able to franchise tag him a third year in a row. So really next year, I think, is going to be the more interesting Dak Prescott story. For me, he's locked into Dallas, and he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, Dak Prescott rolled the dice, and he actually won. But the fact that he won is actually a detriment because there's only a certain amount you're going to pay the guy. If he keeps betting on himself, he's still not going to get Patrick Mahomes money. Nobody's going to give him that. It was the old Adrian Peterson deal from the Minnesota Vikings where every other running back said, oh, my God, we're all going to get paid. Like, no. This is a one-shot, one-off deal here. Nobody else is getting anywhere near this money. So take that out of the equation. We'll see if it takes place. And also we will do this top 15 here. Stay or go real quick. Dak Prescott with the Cowboys to me is a stay. How about you, Kyle?
Yeah, 100% a stay. He's got to stay. It'd be crazy if he didn't. Yeah.
No, you're absolutely right. Number 2 here, we're going to look at this list. Chris Godwin, Buccaneers, 24-year-old wide receiver, Super Bowl champion. We all always say the right things, Kyle, no matter where you are in life. Love where I'm at. Can't wait to get back. I'll take a little bit less until another team knocks on your agent's door and goes, be petulant, be angry, don't sign this. We want you on X team right here. We will give you way more than the franchise tag. So we'll see how that plays out. But Chris Godwin's still young in his career, playing with Tom Brady. It's a no-brainer. If to me, from a career franchise standpoint, make that much money on the franchise tag with wide receiver, go back to the Super Bowl, try to get back, play one more year with Brady, then you're 25 years old, hit that free agent market. How are you looking at here with Chris Godwin? To me, even if he can make more right now in the free agent market, 1 year franchise tag at wide receiver is big bucks, and you play with a Super Bowl champion ready to get back with Tom Brady and make another run at it. I'm saying he stays there, and it's a smart move for him business-wise to stay there.
Yeah, and a smart move for the Buccaneers. Chris Godwin, not only is he a really good young receiver, I know they kind of worry about the drops, stuff like that. You got to remember, he had a broken finger, for half the season and played through it. One of the toughest receivers in the league. You mentioned it, 24 years old. They would be crazy to let him go. And I agree with you. Get that big money, which is, you're not going to get that kind of annual money that you're getting with the franchise tag when you sign the big deal. They're going to backload it and bonuses and all this other stuff. He's going to have a huge year, defending Super Bowl champs. Hard for me to believe that a wide receiver wouldn't want to continue to play with Tom Brady, no matter where you think he's at in his career. First of all, it just gives you so much exposure. You're one of the main targets for Tom Brady. You're going to be on SportsCenter. You're going to be interviewed. You're going to be a national highlight reel. Chris Godwin stays with Tampa Bay. They'd be crazy to let him go. And I agree with you. I think it would be a bad move by him to go elsewhere as well. Knows the system, entrenched in the system, well known. He knows his role. Godwin stays with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense on that one. So I think he stays as well. Now, obviously, wide receiver is a premium position in the NFL. He could pick any number of teams that would welcome him with open arms. But just from, again, a perspective, he's not 33 going, I need to cash in one more time before I end up retiring. He's young in his career. He's got the Super Bowl ring. He can come back, as we said, again, on a franchise tag, which isn't the worst option because theoretically he's going to get like $1 million a game to come back. That once he inks that franchise tag, that is his money, regardless if he blows his ACL out or whatever. And also, we do know the comfortability of just calling up, hello, Lloyds of London. Let me put a few $100,000 on in case I get injured this year, never play again, and give me an extra $50 million. That all plays into it as well. He's just stay there. Sure. How about another wide receiver in the Windy City who I love this guy. He's played in Jacksonville with nothing. He's played in Chicago with nothing and continues to make big plays and is a dominant wide receiver in the NFL. That is Allen Robinson. it's really weird when you read the tea leaves out of Chicago. Hey, we like him, but we're not negotiating. And Allen Robinson's deleting all his stuff on, Instagram and Twitter where he wants out of town. There are a lot of football teams that would like his services. To me, if I'm Allen Robinson, and he's always going to say, I love the Windy City. Why? Because Chicago probably would pay me more than anybody else just to stay home. But if I'm outside looking at some organizations that I can make a push and go to and make the same amount of money, I got to tell you, as a wide receiver, divas, they want the ball. They want a good quarterback. There's nobody in Chicago that's going to throw him the ball. I got him leaving town.
Yeah, he's leaving town, and it's really straight. The Bears are just a weird organization. They don't seem to understand that you need to hold on to your good players, and you need good quarterbacks, and you need a good coach. I mean, they brought their coaching staff and general manager back. It just makes absolutely no sense. Allen Robinson's gone, and I agree. He should want to go somewhere. And I got to tell you, the team that really stands out to me that would be a great fit for Allen Robinson's right there in that division, I think the Green Bay Packers make a ton of sense. How many years in a row are the Packers going to just say...
Would it be fair?
It wouldn't be fair. It would be... Look, who wouldn't want to play with Aaron Rodgers? You have Devontae Adams on the other side. It's been... I don't know how many years the Packers are going to continue to go, hey, we're going to give you Devontae Adams and nothing else to Aaron Rodgers. It's a good move for them, make Aaron Rodgers happy, gives them a legitimate other option besides Devontae Adams, and that offense would be really tough to stop. Allen Robinson's gone. I think the Packers make a whole bunch of sense. And even a team like the New Orleans Saints kind of make a lot of sense to me as well. Someone outside of Michael Thomas there. Emmanuel Sanders, not really the same Emmanuel Sanders. So a team, it's going to throw the football, that they have that one receiver. Adding Allen Robinson can make them really, really special. And to me, he's the best free agent wide receiver on the market. I love Godwin, but Allen Robinson, absolutely a proven commodity, makes a ton of sense to me on the Packers.
You know what's interesting about that move, too, because when you take a look at Allen Robinson, he's going to want some money. There's no doubt about it. And the move is right if you do go to New Orleans. They're so fun. They're like the team that's way on the top of the hill saying, we're restructuring everybody, and we're still $60 million over the cap. That would be a tough one to fit in, even though we've seen a couple strokes of the pen to get under. There's three teams here in the actual NFC East that would love the services of an Allen Robinson. That's the Giants, Eagles, and also the Washington football team. But having said that, he's been around there. He's been with terrible quarterbacks in Jacksonville and with the Chicago Bears. So we're going Daniel Jones, Jalen Hurts. Hey, God, I hope Jalen Hurts is the best quarterback in the division next year, but he's still young and still not proven yet. And are you going to Washington to be with Taylor Heineke? Probably not, even if the money is right. So we'll see if he is. But I think Allen Robinson leaves the Windy City. We'll hit some of these defenders pretty quickly here. Number 4 and 5, Shaquille Barrett, edge rusher for the Buccaneers. There's a surplus of edge rushers on the market. They all make big dollars. You're built on defense. That team won the Super Bowl on defense. It would be smart to bring it back, which brings in another caveat. If you are the GM, Jason Licht, of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you say, you know what, we got a lot of money. We could use one franchise tag. You going Godwin or you going Shaquille Barrett?
Yeah, that's tough. I think, yikes, I'm probably going Chris Godwin, just younger, and it's I'm probably going Godwin.
Keep Brady happy.
Yeah, you got to keep Brady happy. And look, Shaq Barrett, if he doesn't go back to Tampa Bay, there's going to be a ton of teams lining up to get him. One team that stands out to me that could really use a pass rush, and I think would really put them in the talk anyways of winning the conference, is the Tennessee Titans. We saw their pass rush last year was one of the worst in the league, one of the worst playoff teams in terms of pass rushing percentage to ever make the playoffs. They could certainly use them. A ton of teams, pretty much every team in the league would say, yeah, we want Shaq Barrett. But I do think you franchise Chris Godwin and you figure out a way to re-sign Shaq Barrett. That defense was obviously the main reason they won. That pass rush in particular was the main reason they won that Super Bowl. Absolutely got after Patrick Mahomes, dominated in the postseason. Shaq Barrett, I think the Buccaneers figure out a way to keep him, but it would make a lot more sense to me to franchise Chris Godwin and then figure out a long-term deal for Shaq Barrett.
Yeah, he's a big money guy. And as we know, you're talking about the primo positions, right? Wide receiver, defensive end, cornerback. And when you win Super Bowls, the adage goes is, yep, we won this ring. But the people in the locker room like Shaquille Barrett and everybody else goes, I'm a Super Bowl champion now. I'm worth more than what I was yesterday, even when I wasn't a Super Bowl champion. We'll see how it plays out there. Usually these football teams don't win a championship a la the Miami/Florida Marlins. Say, hey, we won. Everybody get out of town. You usually try to keep that buzz going and keep moving forward. We'll see if it is. But if you had to say today, I think they keep him. I do. Even if they use the franchise tag on Godwin, he's going to want big money. You have Tom Brady down there, and he's basically saying, I got like 1 or 2 good years left. We just won one. Let's go for it. They will put their salary cap in the future into right now, and it makes sense, Kyle.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense to me, and I completely agree. I do think I do think that he stays. I think Godwin stays. Tampa Bay is going to do everything in their power to bring that defense back. And it's really, you don't want to be the owner of the GM going to Tom Brady and explaining that you're getting rid of your good players after you just won a Super Bowl. He's the most powerful player in the league. He's going to get what he wants. Shaq Barrett will be back with Tampa Bay, and I think it's the right move. He's a terrific player, and any team would want him if they let him go. I mean, he would literally have 31 other teams vying for his services, so it'd be foolish for them to let him go.
Absolutely. One of the top free agents on the market. No longer a free agent in Denver. How about this? They're actually going to keep somebody on defense who's really good. The Denver Broncos. Justin Simmons signs his franchise tag, so no longer needing to see if he's going to stay or go. Obviously, my man is staying. Trent Williams, offensive tackle of the 49ers, 32 years old. We know he sat it out and hated the Washington football team, but found a home, and Kyle Shanahan, that front office, got 1 year under his belt, says, this guy is really good. He's 32, but in the NFL these days, tackles can play well into their late 30s and play at a high number. If the San Francisco 49ers are serious about winning in that division out there, I think he stays. But when we talk about going, a free agent like Trent Williams on the market, who doesn't want the guy?
Yeah, he's another guy. He would have 31 other teams saying, we want Trent Williams. He's going to stay with the 49ers. The 49ers are not going to let him go. John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, smart guys. They know how to run a team. And look, the real question for the 49ers is, who's the quarterback going to be? Are they going to stick with Garoppolo? Is the Desean Watson trade going to happen? You know, which has been rumored and honestly makes a whole lot of sense. Wouldn't make a ton of sense to, especially if you keep Garoppolo, who's just a sitting duck in the pocket. You need Trent Williams. The 49ers need to rely on that running game and pass protection, play action. Trent Williams, absolutely picture-perfect tackle for what they do in San Francisco. I personally, of course, as a 49er fan and a homer, would be very unhappy if they let him go. I don't see it happening. Trent Williams will be back with the 49ers.
Aaron Jones, Packers, age 26, hits the free agent market, was really setting himself up for a great year and fizzled out down the stretch. A lame performance in the playoffs. He wants franchise tag money. He wants big money. And even the Packers actually came out here, Kyle, and said, you know, we might be looking at why would you franchise tag a running back like Aaron Jones? Now, understandably, they're under the cap. They don't really spend in the free agent market. They do have money that can afford him. But if you're talking about assets here, look like a great regular season back, but somebody who we were waiting for to say, you know what, now is your time, let's lean on you. Guys like Cam Akers, young kids, were performing much better in the playoffs at a much cheaper number than what a franchise tag would be. We're reading this as what we think is going to happen. I do think Aaron Jones is going to get back to the Packers. Do you know why? What is his market outside of the Packers? Are we beating down the doors here that soon if Aaron Jones hits the market, we got to sign him to a major deal and bring him into our football team? Very good running back, yes. Alvin Kamara-ish? Absolutely not. Run CMC? Absolutely not. He's a nice back in a good setting of a great offense. I'm not paying him. So if I'm the Packers, he's coming back, but he's not coming back like he wants to come back, if you hear what I'm saying.
Yeah, the Aaron Jones conundrum. So, like, I'm in two trains of thought. I agree he'll probably be back because no team is going to go out there and give him this huge contract. I mean, we do have teams who do crazy things in free agency. We see it all the time, Washington being one of them. So you can never sleep on, like, a team like Washington. Just Daniel Snyder loves to throw his money around and, you know, sign these guys. But they're just going to wait it out. The value will drop and they'll bring him back. And why would the Packers overpay him when they barely used the guy? I mean, they played him on 52% of the snaps last year. It was the most frustrating thing about the Packers all year long. And then you're right. We finally think, okay, playoff time. He's going to get the big workload.
What does he do?
Yeah, gets hurt instantly and leaves the game with. It's just absolutely ridiculous. I can't. Look, Aaron Jones, he's an above average running back, absolutely. But you're right. He's not elite, in my opinion. Packers do have the money to spend. I would lean Aaron Jones going back to the Packers for less money than he was hoping to get on the free agent.
What was his agent saying to him, like in the playoffs? Like, look, man, you just got to make it out of one more game and not really get hurt, and you're going to get paid. And he just played it up and goes, I took one shot to the ribs. It was my perfect shot to say, can't move, sit me on the bench. And then trying to think of, I'm going to sleep on my money pillows over the next couple of years. Interesting backfire because we watched it all year. Why is this guy not getting the ball? Maybe the Packers knew actually why he can't get the ball all the time, because that's how it would turn out here. Let's keep it in the same division. Anthony Harris, safety, 29 years old for the Vikings. You know, Mike Zimmer's a defensive coordinator. He loves the secondary. He's already got a bad boy right next to him in Harrison Smith. Why not keep the gang back together? I can't imagine a safety is going to break the bank. It only makes sense. Mike Zimmer, Vikings, bringing him back, keep that safety tandem together.
Yeah, they absolutely have to, right? I mean, that secondary was absolutely dreadful. They let Xavier Rhodes go, and then they were starting these young guys, Gladney and et cetera, and the secondary underperformed. So now you're going to get rid of one of your best two players. Those two safeties are the only reason that secondary was able to do anything at all. Anthony Harris has to stay with the Vikings. It would be crazy for them to deplete that secondary more than it already is. Really hard to imagine him going anywhere, and the Vikings have the money to sign him. So, yeah, Anthony Harris, he stays in Minnesota.
I'll tell you what else is really crazy here, Kyle. Since we've been off the last 2 weeks there, I was on vacation. You're headed on a vacation next week. We're going to try to get this show dialed in on a Wednesday so we can keep on bringing these hot topics to you next week. But how about this? 83,000 subscribers here at sportsbookreview.com. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, if you're watching this on the replay, please do that. We don't ask much from you, just to come in here, say hello, watch the videos, hit the subscribe button. We will keep bringing this NFL fire because before you know it, there's going to be a notification bell on bing, 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 early September. We are live Sunday afternoon, week 1 in the NFL. So thank you guys for hitting that subscribe button 83,000 times. And as I said, Kyle, by the end of August, I really want that number to be at 100,000 and keeping it again in rhythm. The NFC Norris division. Kenny Gallaudet for the Lions, 27 years old. Why are we keeping him? It's not even that good wide receiver. Every team should want a Kenny Gallaudet, homegrown kid, but the fact that there is a complete rebuild in Detroit that is going on right now, maybe Jared Goff's like, no, we got to keep Kenny Gallaudet. But to me, he's moving on. I'm rebuilding. I'm Detroit. I'm not worried about my record next year. I just need to move on because by the time we get good again, Kenny Gallaudet will be in his 30s and be very expensive. On a team looking to make a run, yes, I would keep Kenny Gallaudet, but he's going to have a lot of suitors on the free agent market, and I wouldn't spend that franchise tag on Kenny Gallaudet for 1 year in Detroit because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and he just won't be happy, right? He's going to be playing with Jared Goff. It's not even Matthew Stafford, so you got to assume his numbers are going to go down.
Bring back Golden Tate. Golden Tate just got cut. Bring back Golden Tate.
Yeah, bring back Golden Tate. And I do think it's interesting that they just signed Tyrell Williams, which is a little bit interesting. Marvin Jones is also a free agent here. So Detroit, that's another strange organization. Remember, during the regular season, they cut Marvin Hall. Marvin Hall comes out, has a few big games. Gallaudet was hurt all year with that damn hip injury. No player, no man was more detrimental to my fantasy football team last year than Mr. Kenny Gallaudet. It was every week, he's practicing, he's going to play. Nope. And then he just sits out the entire year. Hard for me to imagine that they pay Kenny Gallaudet the kind of money he wants and bring him back. And you're right, it doesn't make a ton of sense. You're a team going nowhere. That money needs to be spent on the defensive side of the ball. That Detroit Lions defense was absolutely atrocious last year. And you can put all the weapons you want around Jared Goff. You're not going to win a damn thing if you don't have a good defense, especially in that division. I think Kenny Gallaudet goes. The signing of Tyrell Williams sort of makes me think that the writing's on the wall for that. And Tyrell Williams isn't a terrible receiver. He's not Kenny Gallaudet, but bigger body guy. If he can stay healthy, red zone target, sort of does some of the things that Gallaudet does. I think Kenny Gallaudet is gone, and there's a lot of teams that could use Kenny Gallaudet. It's hard to pick just one out of a hat, but a team like your Philadelphia Eagles makes a ton of sense to me if they can figure out a way to afford him. Or even a team out there in the West, Denver Broncos maybe. Some of those guys kind of make a lot of sense for me that could use a Kenny Gallaudet.
Yeah, the Eagles will be working on their salary cap restrictions. Once this year is over and that huge hit to Carson Wentz is cleared, they'll be in the free agent market specifically for wide receivers, unless we actually make the right move and take a guy like a Jordan Jefferson this year who is in the draft, which there are a few of those where the Eagles will be drafting at. We'll see what happens there. Let's pick 3 more out here real quick. We'll go 2 wide receivers and 1 cornerback. Juju Smith-Schuster for the Steelers, 24 years old, very productive wideout. I don't know how much he's going to cost you. So he's not a guy that the Steelers typically would franchise tag, right? Because we've seen so many wide receivers come into Pittsburgh, play real well, and they're like, hey, at the end of your contract, thanks for your service, and we're going to draft another guy who's going to be a 1,000-yard wide receiver right behind you. They are amazing at picking wideouts. So if I have to say, should Juju Smith-Schuster be back with the Steelers? Yes, you want to build with the young core. You got a good group of young wideouts. But if it's going to be a franchise tag or some exorbitant number that is his, let's just say, front office / agent rapport is not going as well, he might find himself on another team. And a lot of people would use his services, not the super explosive guy, but again, still young. I wouldn't franchise tag him if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. I would look for a friendly deal. But free agents at 24 years old, a wide receiver, they don't look for friendly deals. They look for deals that are going to pad their pocket.
Exactly. And it's interesting to see exactly how you explain it to him. Not explosive, not the most explosive guy. And I think the offensive system that Pittsburgh ran last year really hurt this guy because it was a, snap the ball and throw it before you can even get the laces lined up in your fingers. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger's release time last year was one of the fastest ever in the history of the NFL. He did not hold the football. So now you have a guy like Juju Smith-Schuster who gets 97 catches and only 830 yards. And so teams around the league are going, hey, is this guy at 24 years old? Is he already losing a step? Can he actually get the job done? Pittsburgh's another team, cap strap. They just re-signed Ben Roethlisberger. They had to rework that deal. They don't have much cap room. It would be strange if I don't see them franchise tagging him. You could tell they're getting a little tired of all of that TikTok nonsense he does and the celebrating on the field. You're going to see a team, the Las Vegas Raiders, I think, make a ton of sense. I could see John Gruden making a play for another wide receiver there. I mean, right now you're running out the rookie who was okay. Henry Ruggs showed some explosivity, of course, but Nelson Aguilar is going to be your number one wide receiver. A guy like Juju Smith-Schuster might fit in nice in Vegas. I don't think he stays with the Steelers.
Yeah, I don't think he does either. Will Fuller, the Texans, 26-year-old speedster, hurt most of the time, getting caught up in performance-enhancing drugs some of the time. So he's going to be an expensive wide receiver, which when we take a look about wide receivers and where they go, most people just have him penciled into Green Bay because it's an absolutely perfect fit for a guy who can stretch the field and be a burner to open up everybody else underneath, including Devontae Adams. I don't think he stays in Houston. And the reason being is not because he's not a good football player. Because if we're looking at Desean Watson, and Desean Watson's going to play hardball, and I've done videos on this already, if the Houston Texans don't have Desean Watson next year on the field but don't trade him, that is a complete win. They'll have the number one overall pick. Then we get restless on the sideline, and Desean will say, all right, trade me to anybody, get two or three first-round picks. Now you have the number one overall pick and then 3 more first-round picks behind it. It would be perfect for the Texans to actually not have Desean Watson. So if you're Will Fuller and you don't have Desean Watson, you're going, what am I doing here now? We're tanking. I want out. He's not going to be with the Texans, and it doesn't make sense for the Texans to have Will Fuller in 2021.
Yeah, and you remember those Will Fuller to the Packers rumors, that was right around the trade deadline as well. There was active negotiations. The Packers were trying to get Will Fuller. He was another guy that was awesome on my fantasy football team because I couldn't believe he was actually healthy for more than 4 weeks, and then we ended up finding out why. Which is fine. Just let all these guys take me up. Yeah. I mean, and that's the only reason he really stayed healthy. So there's certainly health risk for any team that tries to sign him. You're right. I don't see him staying with the Texans. The Texans look primed they're going to be one of the worst teams in the league next year unless Deshaun Watson has a change of heart and decides, hey, I'm going to play. Deshaun Watson's holding a lot of things hostage, and it's kind of interesting in that no trade clause. Really, I've heard a lot of Carolina Panthers rumors for Deshaun Watson. If you're Deshaun Watson, why would you waive your no trade clause to go to the Carolina Panthers? That's the exact same situation outside of a good young coach that you have in Houston. No defense, some weapons, no offensive line, and the rumors are that Christian McCaffrey would be part of that trade. Well, why would he want to go to a team now with no running back, just like he had last year with the washed-up David Johnson? The Carolina, I can't see him waiving his no-trade clause to go to Carolina. It's a real weird thing here, but I'm with you. I think Will Fuller goes, and I think you're right. The Packers do make a ton of sense. A team like Washington makes a ton of sense. They need someone else besides Terry McLaurin out there in Washington, especially if you're going to roll out Taylor Heineke. If you're going to start a guy like Taylor Heineke at quarterback, you better have some weapons around to at least give you just the minuscule shot of having a competent offense with that guy at quarterback. Washington, Green Bay, I think those teams make a lot of sense.
But even when you take a look at, Washington for, let's just say Deshaun Watson when he goes there, because we're just working off of Will Fuller.
Sure.
Deshaun Watson is so good and so expensive, it actually hurts him as a player because you say, hey, I'm going to go to the Jets. We're rebuilding. Oh, you're not rebuilding anymore. You just traded 3 first-rounders away. So now you're not going to get help for 3 years. We'll try to go overpay for some mediocre wide receiver to get you help, but you undermine yourself. I always revert back to the NBA. Carmelo Anthony, when he was with the Denver Nuggets going to the New York Knicks, right? He could have waited 3 months to go to the New York Knicks as a free agent. Would have to take a little bit less money, but a lot of these guys make way more off the court. He forces a trade which gutted the Knicks so he could go back there. And then he's like, hey, why do we stink? Well, if you would have waited 3 months, maybe you wouldn't have stunk because you would have had all that capital that we didn't give up for you. So if Deshaun Watson goes, let me go to the Jets, 3 first-round picks. We stink. We're in a tough division. We can't get you help. You go to the Washington Redskins, who have nothing on offense, basically, outside of Terry McLaurin. Hey, we gave up 3 first-round draft picks. We can't really help you out, so go out and win it yourself. It's a shame he's that good and has to leave the Texans because it hurts. Last player, we're talking about free agents. Richard Sherman, 32 years old, already tampering out here. John Gruden wants him. He's out here. I'll pay these fines. I need that alpha dog in my locker room. I like Richard Sherman because of the mindset he does bring in. But, as cornerbacks get older, outside like a Charles Woodson, that really gets to be a slippery slope. But I think on a one-year deal, team-friendly, where he can get paid and reach some incentives, he can go to a Super Bowl contender. Teams like the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm talking about ready-made winners, not going to Oakland, Richard Sherman, unless it's hey, they're going to pay me more, and that's really what I care about. I already got a Super Bowl ring. I'm ready to move on. He needs to go to a ready-made Super Bowl contender on a one-year deal, and that's what I think you should do.
Yeah, and it's kind of a shame the 49ers are going to let him go. Listen, he played really well for us, and Richard Sherman's the kind of guy who thrives in a scheme that gets after the quarterback and plays that zone coverage. A team like Tampa Bay makes so much sense for Richard Sherman. The weakness of that team was the off corner outside of Carlton Davis, and I know Jamel Dean had some high rankings there in the Pro Football Focus, but the fact of the matter is Jamel Dean, bonehead guy, makes a ton of mistakes. Richard Sherman would fit in perfect staying on his side of the field. They blitz. They run that zone blitz a ton. Teams like Baltimore as well, who blitz a lot and sort of run that zone scheme, I think make a ton of sense. Now,
he'd be good at Buffalo. Yeah, there's a couple teams that he'd be good at.
Buffalo would be great on. Teams that can get after the quarterback and sort of don't force their corners to play these long man-to-man type situations because he doesn't have that kind of speed anymore. So, but he is smart. He is a guy that can anticipate what the quarterback's going to do, especially if they're under pressure. Yeah, I think Buffalo's a great one. Baltimore, probably not any room in that defensive backfield. They have so many good players already. But Tampa Bay, I think Tampa Bay and Buffalo, two teams that make a whole bunch of sense for Richard Sherman.
Yep, and we are ready to move it down now, which, again, we already moved down here. You guys were ready to go for these sleeper picks, and I certainly understand it. So let's get after it. Now, look, sleeper picks don't mean, hey, you know what, man, Patrick Mahomes, great, 500, he's going to win the MVP. Oh, you know what, Kyle likes Aaron Rodgers. You guys would just flip the channel real quick and say, we ain't even worried about any of this nonsense type stuff. We're looking for 10-1 or higher, which basically is everybody outside of Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. But I like to get fun with this and say, who can actually do it? Because there's the Josh Allens of the world, the Kyler Murrays of the world, Tom Brady's, the Lamar Jacksons, the big names that are out there. But I'm looking all the way down the list because if I got to say, well, Josh Allen might have regression this year, right? Kyler Murray can't stay healthy. Tom Brady's old and he already won the Super Bowl. We'll see what happens. Lamar Jackson can't pass and he was already an MVP. And, Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys won't win. So I like to get all the way down that list and say, you know what? Who's going to make the most sense? The first guy that sticks out to me, Christian McCaffrey at 33-1 here, listed at DraftKings. Somebody who's going to come back, hit the ground running. He got his paycheck, which means, coach, put me in. I'm ready to play. I want 25 touches every game. If he can make it through 16 games or 17 games next year, I think he's a pretty good productivity number at 33-1. Who's one of those guys in that range between 15-1 to 33-40-1 that you're looking at, Kyle?
I got a couple guys, and we talked about Desean Watson, and let's just say, hey, he does get traded to the 49ers. You would expect the 49ers to be one of the favorites to go to the Super Bowl, 18-1. Again, you're really sort of taking a shot here on making sure that he goes to a winning team. So that one would be a little bit of risk, but, I mean, all the talent is there. One guy I looked at, 30-1, Ryan Tannehill. I like the Titans next year, especially if they can get that defense right. I think Ryan Tannehill at 30-1, it's usually a quarterback, right? Quarterback once in a while.
Unless a running back, again, hits that 2,100 number, then you're in it, but it is really a quarterback number.
Right. It's a quarterback thing. Ryan Tannehill at 30-1 makes a ton of sense. And one more guy because I got some guys at 60 and 50-1. At 20-1, I think the quarterback for the team that wins the NFC West has a real shot at it. It's going to be the toughest division in football. Matthew Stafford going to the Rams. If he has the kind of year and that Rams defense stays together and plays the way that they played this year, which was in my mind the best defense in football, Matthew Stafford at 20-1, I could take a little piece of that as well for the Rams, who are everyone's they're becoming one of the sexy Super Bowl favorites now with Matthew Stafford joining the team and that defense. So Stafford at 20-1, I think makes a ton of sense as well.
Nice little segue here that we were talking about. Well, that running back needs to get to the 2,100 or so number to get after it. There's one guy in the NFL sitting at 66-1, which I teased if you follow me on Twitter. That is Dalvin Cook. He's probably going to get injured. We know this. But if he doesn't, because we're not saying, hey, Kyle, I'm going to lay $100 to get $200 back if Dalvin Cook wins the MVP. Nobody would do that. But you're talking about a 66-1 guy that he can absolutely dominate and go off. I'm sitting in that position here. I know you like in this 6,000 to 8,000, or excuse me, should I say plus 6,000 to plus $8,000 range of a quarterback. What are you looking at?
Yeah, well, and I completely agree with Dalvin Cook. He's written here right on the list, and he makes a ton of sense at 60-1. What you really are hoping for is that Minnesota's defense can step up because they've got all the weapons on offense you're ever going to need. And, of course, Kirk Cousins in big games, that's always a scary proposition. But I got a quarterback here, and I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with it. But when I look at a team like the New Orleans Saints, terrific defense, great running game. Of course, they have Michael Thomas. If Jameis Winston becomes a starter on that team, we've already seen Jameis Winston throw for over 5,000 yards, throw for over 30 touchdowns. Now, he did throw over 30 interceptions as well. I totally understand that. I don't see that happening in a Sean Payton offense. I think he'll be coached up properly. To me, the Saints are going to the playoffs next year. Quarterbacks on playoff teams, especially if they win the division, in that division where they actually won last year, Jameis Winston, 50-1. I know it sounds crazy, but scared money doesn't make money. I could certainly take a whiff there on Jameis Winston at 50-1.
No, and I have no qualms about that because the voters love new. Like, they don't want to vote Tom Brady MVP again. They don't want to do Mahomes. We don't want to give it Aaron Rodgers back-to-back. Like, Aaron Rodgers needs to throw like 60 touchdown passes next year to be MVP again. Even if he leads the league in touchdowns, he won't get it. We're always looking for that next thing. So if Jameis Winston in that offense in the dome, it's not a bad number of price. I'm actually going to go one up you on the New Orleans Saints. Alvin Kamara sitting around that 80-1 number. If he gets a lot of burn and he stays healthy, he can do it. But how about this one, right? It seems like when you take a look at this list, Kyle, wherever you go, it's quarterback, it's running back, maybe some ridiculous defender. I'm going to go wide receiver who aren't real representative here in this top, like, let's just say 25, 100-1. Arizona's DeAndre Hopkins. Give me 115 catches, 1,400 yards, 17 touchdowns if Kyler Murray stays healthy. We want new, we want aggressive, and J.J. Watt's on their team. And maybe they can make a run, which they won't. Let me say it again. They won't. But I can dream that they can get to the playoffs and DeAndre Hopkins can win MVP. Because, again, we are not talking about, hey, Kyle, $100 to win $200. That's a huge payday. 100-1 if Hopkins wins the MVP.
I love it. And honest to God, you can tell we've done too many shows together because if you could see my other monitor, I have my mouse arrow. The little hand is sitting right on DeAndre Hopkins at plus 10,000 here at William Hill. And I think you're right. When you look at receivers, he's going to get a ton of volume. You only expect Kyler Murray to get better and better. They were one win away from the playoffs this year. So he has a massive year. They get to the postseason. I think that's an interesting one. You could do a whole lot worse. I mean, look, you have guys like Devontae Smith, who hasn't even played a down in the NFL at the same number. You have Sam Darnold at the same damn number. Who would you rather put your money on, DeAndre Hopkins or Sam Darnold? I will take DeAndre Hopkins. So I think that that makes a ton of sense. And I like Alvin Kamara as well. One other guy that I'll say down here, which I don't know if this has ever happened before, a tight end winning MVP, but Travis Kelce was a legit number one. He's also at 100-1. So I think Travis Kelce could be a little bit interesting too. The kind of year he had this year, you're right, they don't want to vote for the same guy. So if the Chiefs have another massive regular season or the number one seed in the AFC and Travis Kelce catches over 100 balls, he could be one of those sneaky guys here at 100-1. I could do that.
No, certainly there. Let's keep it moving here and talk about some odds, not for MVP, but for winning the Super Bowl in 2021. And again, it's easy to say the Chiefs and the Bucs and the Packers and the Bills, because, depending on where the value's coming in, yes, they're the front runners coming into the season. But if we take a look at that middle of the pack teams, because we're going to continue, and we like to pick at least 10-1 or higher, which isn't hard to do when you're picking Super Bowl numbers, because this isn't like the NBA. It's like, hey, we're going to take the Lakers and we're going to take like the Bucs or the Sixers. You don't really get much on your return because really it's a five-man race. Injuries, the NFL parity really adds up, and that's a great thing for gamblers looking to buy a bargain. So when you take a look, and I know you're a 49ers fan. I'm high on the 49ers at 15-1. I think it's value. Even if Jimmy Garoppolo is their quarterback and they are healthy, they are going to be hell on wheels in the NFC West alone. But when we start to sink our teeth into some of those, what really can make sense? To me, the New Orleans Saints are going to be a better football team next year without Drew Brees. So the 20-1 sticks out. The Indianapolis Colts at 22-1 with Carson Wentz. Wow, Philip Rivers retired. He's better than Carson Wentz. If Wentz gets it together, and I think he will, behind in a dominant offensive line and coaching philosophy, that's a nice number to have because I do think the Colts will be the front runners in their division. But as we sink our teeth maybe down a little bit lower, it's hard to really get that balance because now you're taking legitimate deep shots. So the Chargers going to get it together. The Cowboys at 28-1 is hilarious because, yes, they'll win the NFC, but they ain't going anywhere in the playoffs overall. No. The Seahawks always with Russell Wilson, but I like that range there between the 1,500 of the 49ers and the 2,200 with the Colts, along with the Saints at plus 2,000. What are you looking at here, some of these sleepers?
Yeah, 49ers and Saints would be my first two just going down the list. Bet Online has them at 1,600, Saints at 2,500. And I think you're right. That Saints defense, so good. Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray, add another wide receiver on the outside. That team is going to be really, really good no matter who the quarterback is. They just have a great foundation, especially on defense. Love the New Orleans Saints. As I go down a little bit further, because I like to get a big, big number when I do this, I know I sound like a broken record. I think the Tennessee Titans at 33-1. Come on. The Titans are just an average defense away from being a real problem. That offense can score on anyone. We know King Henry, A.J. Brown, Carl. They have all the pieces in place. Ryan Tannehill has absolutely been fantastic since joining the Titans. If they can get a little bit of a pass rush and play better defense, the Tennessee Titans could be a real problem. And as you look here, I mean, beyond the Titans, there's just nobody. I mean, Carolina, Chicago, Denver, Vegas, none of those teams are going anywhere. You look down here, the Tennessee Titans really stand out to me. Don't forget, went to the AFC title game just the season before last, postseason last year, so you see sort of a perennial playoff team here. The Tennessee Titans, if Mike Vrabel decides not to punt from the other team's 40-yard line, they have a legit shot at 33-1. I like the Titans as a long shot.
Yeah, somebody in the chat box here. The dash is the name. It's great. The Saints cap space. Yeah, we understand that they don't have too much cap space back, but it also says Titans value is 33-1. Agree with that. Some deep shots next year. Never count out Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels. If they get somebody who can actually throw a forward pass, they are going to still be a competitive football team here in 2021. The one team to watch out for, and I'm talking about taking a deep shot here, 60-1, is the Denver Broncos. And Jesus Christ, Drew Lock right now is their quarterback. 60-1 is like lighting it on fire and throwing it out the window. But we're also talking conjecture and what might happen in the future. If somehow that phone call rings and Desean Watson ends up on that football team where, they're going to have to give up some capital, but that's a ready-made winner on offense. It really is. You got young, dominant wide receivers, a couple good running backs, a decent offensive line. He can flourish in that system. That's the only reason. But if the Broncos do not make a trade for Desean Watson, you are lighting that 60-1 on fire with me.
Yes, you are. Drew Lock, you're just burning it again. It's like the flash paper that doesn't even leave residue if you're leave Drew Lock, but I think that's a good point. And it just shows you how this is such an interesting offseason because it's very rare we have a quarterback of Desean Watson's age and ability. God, I can't even remember it really ever happening since like the late 80s when Steve Young was available after the USFL, stuff like that. Yep. But man, you're right. If he goes to Denver, if he goes to any of those teams, or if he goes to Chicago, which are a lot of rumors, boom, Chicago instantly jumps a rank. If he goes to Washington, they jump. So, if I'm looking at teams way down here that probably won't get Desean Watson, maybe the Minnesota Vikings. They got a lot of stuff on offense. It's hard to trust Kirk Cousins in big games. I get it. But they do have a ton of weapons. Those wide receivers, Dalvin Cook, of course. They need that defense to come around. They could be interesting. And, let's not forget, 3 years ago, the Atlanta Falcons were in the Super Bowl. They're down here at 66-1. I can't personally back the Falcons, but when I just look at the teams in this range, I would certainly take Atlanta over New York or Jacksonville or Cincinnati or Detroit. So if you're one of those people that want 50-1 or better, maybe the Atlanta Falcons at 66-1 might be something you could throw a few bucks on.
Yeah, real quick on this. We like to talk in hyperboles here. Desean Watson plays next year for the Houston Texans, yes or no?
I say no. I think they'll eventually let him go. The pressure will be too much, and they'll let him go.
I think you're correct on that. The only franchise in the National Football League that wouldn't care about that because they would sue Desean Watson, try to go after signing bonus money, and that's the major thing. That would be the Cincinnati Bengals, which they did with Carson Palmer. Hey, we want 2 first-rounders. We'll give you 1 and hopefully not you're getting 2. Well, you're going to stink and you're going to have to drift. It doesn't matter. We're going to sit them on the bench. They did and actually worked out in their favor because those dumbbells out in Oakland gave up a fortune for him the very next year. So I always say I think they caved due to public pressure. But if Nick Caserio scenario is a first-year GM and says, I have a long leash here. Hey, Desean, we're not taking phone calls. You're going to play for us. If you're not, we'll sue you. We'll get the money back. We'll sit you. We'll get the number 1 pick. Then we'll move you for 3 first-round picks the next year, and everybody wins. I don't know if they have that type of sensibility down there in order to enact that, because the public pressure from like Twitter, hey, you got to trade him. It's not fair. You got to trade him. If they can hold deep, they can be a really big franchise over the next couple of years. Let's keep going as we head down the list here. Early look at the odds for the AFC champions this year, and will the Chiefs repeat and do that? If we take a look here at DraftKings, Chiefs are plus 260 to win the AFC. The Bills plus 600, the Ravens plus 650, the Browns plus 1,000. As I go down this list, and again, trying to find value and see what actually works here, I do think the Chiefs make sense, but the Chiefs, again, it's hard to say injuries because everybody does get injuries. And hey, if Patrick Mahomes gets injured, of course we know that. But then you could say, well, the Buffalo Bills are going to win it, but if Josh Allen gets injured, if we're looking at a repeat for the AFC this year, similar to what was last year, I don't see it. I don't see anybody knocking off the Chiefs in the AFC. I just think they're going to get one of those teams coming out of the NFC with a good defense. But of the AFC teams that can knock them out, the Bills, I mean, they can. The Ravens, I guess they can, but it's Andy Reid. It's Patrick Mahomes. They're probably going to wind up with home field advantage again. Hard to knock them off out there at whatever the new Arrowhead Stadium is called now. I think that, again, it's easy to say they're the favorite. They're going to win. I do. I think they win the AFC again next year.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much as long as Patrick Mahomes is on the field, it's hard to take anyone in the AFC over him. And, you know, they are a flawed team. There are some things they could work on. Obviously, their offensive line was just horribly injured in the Super Bowl. So that's not really a replica of what you're going to see from the Chiefs when Eric Fisher's healthy, et cetera. So it's really hard to imagine a team beating them. As I go down the list, the team that's going to beat them is a team that can score points. And that's why, again, I go back to the Titans at 16-1. A team that can put up a ton of points, because you're outside of what we saw in the Super Bowl, that was the lowest points ever scored by a Patrick Mahomes team. You're not going to see that all the time. That's not something that's going to happen, and you can't count on on that defense. You need to be able to score points. So maybe a team like the Titans down there at 16-1 makes some sense. But you're right. Like right now, it's really hard to put your money anywhere else when it comes to winning the AFC Championship than the Kansas City Chiefs. You still can't trust Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, in my opinion. Buffalo on their way, maybe 1 or 2 pieces away. Buffalo would be an interesting one, but I mean, we saw it twice last year. Just they simply can't deal with the way that Kansas City plays, and I don't see that changing all that much. So right now, as boring as that is, and as low as the value is, like I'm not throwing a plus 260 futures bet. That's just not.
Yeah, we need the Buffalo Bills. We need the Bills to find a running game next year. They need a legitimate 3-down back next year, and then they'll be able to create some havoc there. But just right now, as it looks in the offseason, again, there's still free agency. There's still the draft to come up, but it looks like the Chiefs still are going to be on the top of the mountain, which is a great segue when you said Lamar Jackson can't win in the playoffs. Let's talk a little Lamar Jackson right now, and can they actually win the Super Bowl next year? They're going to be talented. They're still going to have a good defense. They got a great organization. He's an electric regular season athlete, Lamar Jackson. They're going to have a good running game. They got some capable wide receivers and a good offensive line. We'll see if they make a trade on their left tackle and maybe pick up some other picks down the road. And if they do sign a free agent at wide receiver, that certainly will help. But to me, it's they go as far as Lamar Jackson goes and how he operates. And when we watch it, took another step, won a playoff game. He can clear that off his mantle. But you just see the way the playoffs are different. Like regular season, he runs wild. Guys are wide open. They're just beating teams that are inferior. But once the playing field sort of evens up with the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, you're just like, you watch him drop back to pass. It's like he can't do it. He's not going to be able to lead a comeback. He's not going to go 33 of 38 for 440 and 4 scores and lead you to a comeback victory. It's just not the way it is. They are a front-running football team, which they can get away with in the regular season. But once the playoff comes and it gets colder, you saw the Bills game. They were embarrassing on offense in that Bills game. And that's what's going to continue down the stretch. So my simple answer, can they win the Super Bowl this year? I don't see it, because he's got to prove me wrong and show that he could say, I'm going to be a pocket pass winning quarterback in the playoffs, which he has not shown yet. So my answer for this coming year, resounding no on the Ravens.
Yeah, and look, I love Lamar Jackson. He's a fantastic fantasy player, too, for all you fantasy football players, all that stuff. He's the best athlete in the league. It's not even close. He's absolutely electric. But you're right. He just can't throw the football. And, you talked about the wide receiver core. I think it's time that the Ravens do sign a legit number 1 receiver. They don't really have that. Hollywood Brown's not a legit number 1 receiver. Willie Snead, Miles
But
Boykin.
who would go there? That's the issue. The issue is who's going to go there?
Right.
Because if I'm a wide receiver, I'm Allen Robinson. He would fit right on any team. But wide receivers want money, yes. Yeah. But they are divas. You know what they do at the end of the year? The same way the rich owners in the NFL go compare Super Bowl trophies at the end of the year. Forget about how much they made. They want to walk into the room with the Super Bowl trophy like, all you guys and you're billionaires, I got the trophy right here. Allen Robinson, if he goes to Baltimore, I'm just using him as a part of the equation here. And he has 55 catches for 800 yards next year. He's going to be like, even though his bank account is filled, man, I had 120. You had 130. Michael Thomas had 142, and you got 55. That just doesn't fly for a while. Why, if I'm a wide receiver, do I want to go to Baltimore? Outside of the paycheck, I still want to earn my paycheck.
Yeah, exactly. It's essentially a career death sentence, right? No more Pro Bowls, no more commercials. Yeah. You're catching 45 balls from Lamar Jackson.
And then they're cutting at the end of the year going, well, he's not as productive as we thought he would be. And he's like, well, I can't get the football, man.
Yeah, I can't. How am I supposed to get the ball when Lamar is throwing it to me? But, I mean, it makes sense for Baltimore to try it. Like a guy like Kenny Gallaudet could be interesting. He was sort of hurt last year, sort of lowered his stock, if you will. So maybe he agrees to go. And Baltimore would be well served just for their organization. They need to finally know, can this guy get it done in the postseason? Because I'm with you. I'm not sold. When they get behind, they have legitimately zero chance of coming back. I know they got behind a little bit in that Titans game. I actually got very excited early in that game, and they were able to come back, unfortunately. But again, that's against a terrible Titans defense last year. And you see it. We saw it in the playoffs in the same weekend. We saw teams bum rushing Tom Brady, and he's able to make the adjustment and make the quick throw behind the blitz. But when you blitz Lamar in the playoffs with a good defense and you take away those running lanes, that offense has nowhere to go. He just simply can't exploit it. He's going to have to, until he proves to me that he can do that, I'm not sold on it. Baltimore, they'll be right in the thick of things. They're going to have a good defense. They're going to be in the playoffs. They'll probably win that division. But I just can't see him out-dueling Patrick Mahomes in the postseason. I just don't see it.
No, and it's the same thought process for myself. And even take a look at the AFC North next year. The Ravens, which were a prohibitive favorite last year, plus 110 this year in that division with the Cleveland Browns plus 175, the Steelers at 350, and the Bengals at 20. And it's funny. They're 25-1 in their, not the Super Bowl, in their own division. So good luck, Joe Burrow and Cleveland out there having some fun. So that is an NFL show for a Football Friday. Yes, in the month of March. Let's wrap it up here because we are going to come back weekly here to give you guys the updates you need in order to keep track. And it's nice because, hey, maybe if you're not watching live, you say, you know what, it's the weekend here. Let me dip into a little NFC action. And what was Kyle talking about here? What were the favorites that they wanted? Some long shots, whether it be the Super Bowl or even MVP. We got you covered all off season long. As we said, we are heading towards free agency. We're heading towards the NFL draft. And yes, another day closer to kickoff of the 2021 NFL season, which we hope we got full. Hey, Dallas is ready for 110,000 people, their governor said. Good. So hopefully some of these other people turn their states back on and we can get some fans in the stands and have a lot of fun. But we want to thank you guys for joining us here on Friday, talking a little NFL football, just to wet that whistle for next year. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Kyle Purviance. We are sportsbookreview.com. And this was your NFL show for, yes, March 5th, 2021. Good luck on your future wagers.